Bella sat nervously in her car outside the elegant wedding venue, staring at her phone screen one more time before stepping out. The message from the private companion service confirmed everything. Your companion, Rocco, will meet you at the entrance at 6 o'clock sharp. She sighed deeply, still slightly embarrassed about her decision. Her cousin's wedding was tonight, and her entire extended family would be there, including her overly nosy aunts who never stopped asking why a smart, successful woman like Bella was still single at 28. She had grown tired of the same uncomfortable questions, the pitying looks, the constant pressure to bring someone home. So, after seeing an advertisement online, she had made an impulsive decision, paying $200 for a professional companion to accompany her for one single evening. It felt slightly ridiculous, but desperate times called for desperate measures. Taking a deep breath, Bella stepped out of her car and walked toward the venue entrance, smoothing down her elegant deep red dress that hugged her curvy figure confidently. She spotted a tall, well-dressed man standing near the entrance, his sharp eyes scanning the surroundings carefully before settling on her. "Bella?" the man asked, his voice smooth and confident. "Yes, that's me," Bella said, slightly nervous. "You must be Rocco." Rocco smiled charmingly, though something about his eyes seemed unusually alert, almost calculating, like he was assessing every detail of his surroundings rather than simply enjoying a pleasant evening. "Pleasure to meet you," he said, offering his arm politely. "Shall we?" Bella took his arm hesitantly, trying to calm her nervous energy as they walked together into the beautifully decorated wedding venue. Guests mingled everywhere, soft music playing as waiters moved gracefully between tables, carrying elegant appetizers. "Just remember," Bella whispered as they walked, "my family thinks we've been dating for 6 months. Please don't make this awkward." Rocco chuckled softly. "Trust me, sweetheart, I'm very good at pretending." Throughout the evening, Rocco played his role flawlessly, charming Bella's relatives with easy conversation, complimenting her aunts, and even managing to make her notoriously difficult grandmother laugh genuinely. Bella found herself surprisingly at ease beside him, momentarily forgetting the awkwardness of their arrangement. However, as the evening progressed, Bella began noticing small, strange details about Rocco's behavior. He positioned himself carefully at their table, always facing the entrance directly. His eyes frequently scanned the room, alert and watchful, completely different from the relaxed demeanor of the other wedding guests. Whenever someone unfamiliar approached their table, his body would tense slightly before relaxing again once he recognized no threat. "Are you all right?" Bella finally whispered during a quiet moment. "You seem distracted." Rocco flashed a quick, reassuring smile. "Just admiring the venue. Beautiful location." Bella didn't fully believe him, but decided not to press further, especially with her family watching closely nearby. As dinner service began, Bella excused herself briefly to the restroom, leaving Rocco alone at their table. When she returned several minutes later, she noticed him speaking quietly but urgently into his phone, his expression suddenly serious and tense. "Everything okay?" Bella asked, sliding back into her seat. Rocco quickly ended his call, his charming smile returning instantly, though Bella noticed his eyes remained unusually alert. "Everything's fine," he said smoothly. "Just a small work matter." Bella studied him curiously, but let the matter drop as the wedding's main course was served. Nearly an hour later, as guests enjoyed dessert and the dance floor filled with joyful couples, chaos suddenly erupted near the venue's main entrance. Loud shouting echoed through the hall as several armed men in dark suits rushed inside, their eyes scanning the crowd intensely, clearly searching for someone specific. Panic spread instantly through the wedding guests, screams echoing as people scrambled away from the entrance in fear. "Rocco!" Bella whispered urgently, her heart pounding with confusion and fear. "What's happening?" Rocco's charming expression vanished instantly, replaced by sharp, calculated focus. His body tensed, his hand instinctively moving toward his jacket. "Stay close to me," he said firmly, his voice completely different now, commanding, serious, dangerous. The armed men moved closer, scanning tables rapidly. One of them suddenly locked eyes with Rocco from across the room, recognition flashing clearly across his face. "There he is!" the man shouted loudly, pointing directly toward their table. Bella's breath caught in her throat, confusion turning rapidly into terror. "They're looking for you." Rocco grabbed her hand firmly, pulling her quickly away from the table, just as the armed men began pushing through the panicked crowd toward them. "I'll explain everything later," Rocco said urgently, guiding her rapidly toward a side exit. "Right now, we need to leave. Immediately." As they rushed through a quiet hallway leading outside, Bella's eyes widened in shock as she noticed something metallic and dangerous hidden beneath Rocco's expensive jacket. A gun, tucked securely at his side. "Who are you?" Bella demanded breathlessly, her mind racing with fear and confusion. "What did I just pay $200 for?" Rocco glanced back at her, his expression serious, his eyes carrying a weight far heavier than any simple companion should ever possess. "Not now," he said urgently, pulling her through the exit door just as shouts and chaos erupted loudly behind them. "Right now, we just need to survive tonight." Bella's heart pounded wildly as Rocco pulled her through the venue's back exit, chaos and shouting still echoing loudly behind them. Cold night air hit her face as they rushed toward a black car waiting at the edge of the parking lot, a driver already alert behind the wheel. "Get in," Rocco said urgently, opening the door for her before quickly climbing in beside her. The car sped away immediately, leaving the chaotic wedding venue rapidly behind them. Bella's mind raced, adrenaline and confusion mixing violently inside her chest. "I think you owe me a serious explanation," Bella said, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and anger. "Who are you really? Why were armed men chasing you at my cousin's wedding?" Rocco sighed heavily, running a hand through his dark hair, his charming mask completely gone now, replaced by something more serious and guarded. "My name really is Rocco. That part wasn't a lie. But the rest was?" Bella pressed. "The dating service is legitimate," Rocco explained carefully. "I occasionally use it as a cover, attending public events where I need to appear ordinary, unremarkable. Someone in my position can't simply attend events alone without drawing unwanted attention." Bella stared at him, disbelief clear on her face. "Your position? What exactly do you do, Rocco?" Rocco met her eyes directly, his expression serious. "I run an organization, a powerful one, with equally powerful enemies. Tonight, some of those enemies found out where I would be." Bella felt her blood run cold. "You're talking about the Mafia." Rocco didn't deny it, his silence confirming her fears instantly. "I paid $200 for a fake boyfriend for one evening," Bella said, panic rising sharply in her voice. "Not to become involved in some criminal war." "I understand your anger," Rocco said calmly, though guilt flickered behind his controlled expression. "I never intended for you to become involved in any danger. I'm truly sorry. Sorry doesn't change the fact that men with guns were searching for you at my family's wedding," Bella snapped, her voice shaking. "My family was there. My grandmother was there." "I know," Rocco said seriously, "and I promise you, extra security has already been arranged discreetly to ensure your family's continued safety." Bella's mind raced, trying to process everything unfolding around her. "Why were they after you specifically tonight?" Rocco hesitated before answering. "A rival family has been trying to expand into territory I currently control. Tonight's attack means they've grown desperate enough to risk open conflict in public. And now, because I was seen with you, I'm in danger too?" Bella asked, her voice tight with fear. Rocco's jaw tightened. "It's a possibility I can't ignore. If my enemies identify you as someone connected to me, even briefly, they may attempt to use you as leverage." Bella felt overwhelmed, panic and disbelief crashing over her simultaneously. "This isn't my life, Rocco. I have a normal job, a normal family. I can't just disappear into your dangerous world because of some fake dating arrangement." "I understand completely," Rocco said gently, surprising her with his patience despite the tense situation. "But right now, going straight home isn't safe. At least allow me to ensure your protection until we determine the true extent of tonight's danger." The car eventually arrived at a private, heavily secured estate on the outskirts of the city. Rocco led Bella inside, guards nodding respectfully as they passed through multiple security checkpoints. Once settled into an elegant but unfamiliar living room, Bella finally allowed herself to process the surreal events of the evening. "I don't even know how to feel about any of this," she admitted quietly. Rocco studied her carefully. "For what it's worth, I truly am sorry for placing you in danger, even unintentionally." Bella looked at him seriously. "Was any part of tonight even real? The charm, the kindness toward my family. Was that just part of your cover?" Rocco was quiet for a moment before answering honestly. "The performance was necessary, yes. But my enjoyment of your family's company, my respect for how you handled tonight's chaos, that was completely genuine." Bella wasn't sure whether to believe him, though something in his sincere expression made her want to. Their conversation was interrupted by one of Rocco's men entering quickly, his expression tense. "Sir, we've confirmed the attackers were sent by Salvatore Greco. He's escalating faster than we anticipated." Rocco's expression darkened instantly. "Greco? Of course. Who is that?" Bella asked cautiously. "A rival who has wanted my territory for years," Rocco explained grimly. "Tonight's reckless attack means he's grown impatient enough to risk direct confrontation. And now I'm involved because of some ridiculous fake date arrangement," Bella said, the weight of her situation settling heavily upon her. "I won't let anything happen to you," Rocco said firmly, his usually guarded expression showing genuine concern. "You have my word, regardless of how this arrangement began." Despite her fear and disbelief, something about his sincerity slightly eased Bella's overwhelming anxiety. Still, she couldn't ignore the surreal strangeness of her current situation. Mere hours ago, she had simply been trying to avoid awkward family questions at a wedding. Now she sat inside a Mafia boss's heavily guarded estate, suddenly entangled in a dangerous criminal war she never asked to be part of. "What happens now?" Bella asked quietly. "For tonight, you'll stay here, fully protected," Rocco said. "Tomorrow, we'll figure out the safest way to manage your situation moving forward." Bella nodded reluctantly, exhaustion finally overtaking her overwhelmed mind and body. Rocco noticed her fatigue and gestured gently toward a guest room down the hall. "Rest," he said softly. "You're completely safe here tonight." As Bella lay awake much later, staring blankly at the unfamiliar ceiling, she replayed the night's chaotic events repeatedly in her mind, unable to fully process how quickly her simple, harmless plan had spiraled into genuine danger involving a secret Mafia boss she barely knew, yet somehow, despite everything, found herself increasingly unable to stop thinking about. Bella woke up the next morning in the unfamiliar guest room, sunlight streaming softly through elegant curtains. For a brief moment, she forgot where she was, before the memories of the previous night rushed back completely. The wedding, the armed men, Rocco's shocking secret. She sat up slowly, still processing the surreal turn her life had taken. A soft knock came at her door. "Come in," she said quietly. Rocco entered, dressed casually now, though tension remained visible behind his composed expression. "How are you feeling this morning?" "Confused, overwhelmed, still slightly convinced I'm dreaming," Bella admitted honestly. Rocco offered a small, understanding smile. "Understandable, given everything that happened last night. I've spoken with your workplace already, explaining you're dealing with a brief family emergency." Bella frowned slightly. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," Rocco said gently, "but your safety matters more right now than any inconvenience this causes." Bella sighed, overwhelmed by how quickly her simple plan to avoid awkward family questions had spiraled completely out of her control. "This still feels unreal. Yesterday, my biggest worry was surviving my aunt's wedding-related interrogations." Rocco chuckled softly despite the tension. "I imagine this is quite the unexpected escalation." Over the following days, Bella remained inside Rocco's heavily secured estate, restlessly aware of unfamiliar guards stationed quietly throughout the property. She noticed them from her window, men patrolling the grounds carefully, vehicles positioned strategically near every entrance, quiet but constant vigilance surrounding her every movement. One afternoon, unable to contain her curiosity any longer, Bella confronted Rocco directly in his private study. "I need to understand exactly what I'm dealing with," she said firmly. "All of it. No more vague explanations." Rocco studied her for a long moment before nodding slowly. "All right. Sit down. I'll explain everything. For the next hour, Rocco explained the complicated, dangerous world he had inherited. A powerful criminal organization built by his family generations earlier, constant rivalries and power struggles between competing families, and the delicate balance of violence and diplomacy required to maintain his position. Salvatore Greco has wanted my territory for years, Rocco explained grimly. He's patient, ruthless, and willing to exploit any weakness he identifies. Right now, unfortunately, that includes you. Bella listened carefully, her fear growing steadily with every detail. Yet oddly, she also felt a strange sense of relief at finally understanding the complete truth, rather than remaining confused and uncertain. So what exactly happens now? Bella asked quietly. Am I supposed to just hide here indefinitely? No, Rocco said firmly. We're actively working to neutralize the threat Greco poses. Until then, ensuring your safety remains my absolute priority. Meanwhile, across the city, Salvatore Greco sat in his private office, reviewing freshly gathered information about Bella with cold, calculating interest. She's simply a hired companion, one of his men reported. No known connections to Rocco's world whatsoever, beyond a paid arrangement for one evening. Greco's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Yet Rocco personally ensured her safety immediately following our attack. That tells me she matters more to him than a simple business arrangement would explain. What are your orders, sir? The man asked. Greco smiled coldly, an idea forming clearly behind his calculating gaze. Find out everything about her routine, her family, her weaknesses. If Rocco cares this deeply about a stranger, imagine how valuable she could become as leverage against him. Back at Rocco's estate, unaware of Greco's growing interest in her, Bella struggled increasingly with her complicated feelings regarding her situation. Despite the obvious danger, despite lingering fear, she found herself unexpectedly drawn to Rocco's quiet strength and unexpected depth. One evening, as she sat alone on the estate's balcony, watching the city lights glittering below, Rocco joined her quietly. You seem lost in thought, he observed, leaning casually against the railing beside her. Just trying to process everything, Bella admitted. A few days ago, I paid $200 for a pretend boyfriend. Now I'm hiding inside your mansion because dangerous criminals think I matter to you. Rocco was quiet for a moment before responding honestly. For what it's worth, I'm genuinely grateful you handled everything as calmly as you did that night. Bella looked at him curiously. Do you ever regret this life, Rocco? All the danger, the constant threats, the responsibility? Rocco considered her question seriously. Sometimes, but it's the only life I've ever truly known. My father built this empire, and it became mine the moment he passed away unexpectedly. That sounds isolating, Bella said softly. It has been, Rocco admitted, surprising himself with his own vulnerability. Until recently, at least. Their eyes met, something unspoken passing quietly between them in the evening air. Before either could address the growing tension, one of Rocco's men rushed onto the balcony, his expression urgent. Sir, we have a problem, he said quickly. Greco's men were spotted near Bella's workplace earlier today. Bella's heart dropped instantly. My workplace? Is anyone there in danger? Everything appears calm currently, the guard reassured her. But it's clear Greco is actively searching for ways to identify and exploit your connection to Rocco. Rocco's expression hardened immediately, protective anger flashing behind his usually calm exterior. Increase security around her workplace immediately, discreetly but thoroughly. Bella stood frozen, fear gripping her chest at the sudden realization that her ordinary, innocent life had now become entangled dangerously with Rocco's criminal world, threatening even the people and places she once considered completely safe. This is exactly what I feared, Bella whispered, her voice trembling slightly. My normal life slipping away because of one impulsive decision. Rocco turned to her, his eyes serious and unwavering. I promise you, Bella, I will protect everything and everyone important to you, no matter what it takes. The following days passed in tense uncertainty. Rocco arranged discreet protection for Bella's workplace, careful to avoid alarming her co-workers or drawing unwanted attention. Bella continued going through the motions of her normal routine, though the constant awareness of hidden guards nearby made everything feel strangely surreal. Despite the danger surrounding her, Bella found herself spending increasing amounts of time with Rocco, their conversations growing longer and more personal with each passing evening. She began noticing sides of him that completely contradicted everything she once assumed about dangerous mafia bosses. One evening, as they shared a quiet dinner together at his estate, Bella studied him thoughtfully. "You're not at all what I expected," she admitted. Rocco raised an eyebrow curiously. "What exactly did you expect?" "Someone cold, calculating, maybe even cruel," Bella said honestly. "Instead, you're thoughtful, patient. You clearly care deeply about protecting the people around you, despite the violent world you're forced to navigate." Rocco's expression grew distant momentarily, old memories clearly surfacing. "I wasn't always this way. My father ruled through fear and brutality alone. Growing up, I watched him make choices I promised myself I would never repeat." "What changed?" Bella asked gently. "When he passed unexpectedly, and I inherited everything, I decided to run things differently," Rocco explained. "Protecting my people through loyalty and genuine respect, rather than fear alone. It's earned me enemies within my own organization, people who consider me weak. But it's the only way I could live with the choices I make daily." Bella felt genuine admiration swell within her, despite the obvious danger surrounding Rocco's entire existence. That takes real courage, choosing kindness deliberately, in a world that constantly rewards cruelty instead. Rocco looked at her, vulnerability flickering unexpectedly behind his usually guarded eyes. "You make it sound simpler than it often feels." Their quiet moment was interrupted by a soft chime from Rocco's phone. He glanced at it quickly, his expression tensing slightly before standing abruptly. "I need to handle something urgent. I'll return shortly," he said, leaving Bella alone with her increasingly complicated thoughts. Left by herself, Bella wandered curiously through the estate, eventually finding herself inside Rocco's private study, filled with old photographs and personal items she hadn't previously noticed. One photograph in particular caught her attention, a younger Rocco standing proudly beside an older woman with warm, kind eyes, clearly his mother. "She passed away when I was still young," Rocco's voice suddenly said from the doorway, startling Bella slightly. "I'm sorry," Bella said softly, turning to face him. "I didn't mean to intrude." "It's all right," Rocco said, walking closer to examine the photograph himself. "She was the only person who ever showed me unconditional kindness growing up. After she passed, my father's harsh influence became absolute." "Is that why you've worked so hard to become different?" Bella asked quietly. Rocco nodded slowly. "I suppose so. I've often wondered what kind of man I might have become had she lived longer." Bella reached out gently, placing her hand comfortingly on his arm. "I believe you've become exactly the kind of man she would have wanted you to be, despite everything working against you." Rocco glanced down at her hand, then up into her eyes, something deep and unspoken passing silently between them. For a brief, charged moment, the tension between them shifted into something warmer and unmistakably intimate. Before either could act upon the moment, one of Rocco's most trusted men, Antonio, entered the room abruptly, his expression clearly troubled. "Sir, we have an urgent situation," Antonio said quickly. "One of our informants inside Greco's organization just confirmed something deeply concerning." Rocco straightened immediately, his personal moment with Bella instantly replaced by sharp, focused concern. "What is it?" "Greco knows Bella's true importance to you now," Antonio said grimly. "He's planning something significant. Soon." Bella's stomach twisted painfully with fear. "What kind of plan exactly?" "We don't have complete details yet," Antonio admitted honestly. "But Greco's men have been spotted near this estate multiple times over the past 2 days." Rocco's jaw tightened with barely controlled fury. "Increase security immediately. No one enters this property without thorough verification." Antonio nodded quickly, leaving promptly to carry out the urgent orders. Rocco turned back toward Bella, his expression deadly serious. "I won't allow anything to happen to you." "I believe you," Bella said softly, though lingering fear remained evident in her trembling voice. Later that night, following significantly increased security measures throughout the estate. Bella lay restlessly awake in her guest room, unable to calm her racing thoughts. A soft knock interrupted her restlessness. "It's me," Rocco's voice called quietly. Bella opened the door to find him standing there, visible exhaustion and genuine concern etched clearly across his face. "I wanted to personally make sure you were all right," he said. "I don't think I'll ever feel completely all right again," Bella admitted honestly. "But having you nearby genuinely helps." Rocco stepped closer, his usual guarded composure softening entirely. "Bella, I need you to understand something important. Whatever happens next, whatever danger Greco brings, I will protect you, regardless of personal cost." Bella's heart raced at his sincere words, the depth of his devotion settling deeply within her chest. "Why does my safety matter so intensely to you, Rocco?" Rocco reached out gently, cupping her face carefully in his hands, his eyes searching hers with unmistakable sincerity. "Because somewhere between that fake wedding date and now, you've become far more important to me than I ever anticipated." Before Bella could respond, a loud crash suddenly echoed from downstairs, immediately followed by alarmed shouts and the unmistakable sound of gunfire erupting violently throughout the estate. Rocco's expression hardened instantly, protective instincts taking complete control. "Stay behind me," he ordered firmly, pulling Bella close as chaos erupted rapidly around them. "They're here," Rocco said grimly, his eyes dark with fierce determination. "Greco's men have found us." Gunfire echoed violently through the estate as Rocco pulled Bella quickly down the hallway, away from the chaos erupting near the main entrance. His men shouted urgent orders, engaging Greco's attackers with practiced precision, but the overwhelming number of intruders made the situation increasingly dangerous by the second. "This way," Rocco said urgently, guiding Bella toward a hidden emergency exit tucked discreetly at the back of the estate. They had almost reached the exit when 3 of Greco's men suddenly appeared, blocking their path completely, weapons raised directly at them. "End of the line, Rocco," one attacker sneered coldly. Rocco pushed Bella behind him protectively, positioning his own body firmly between her and the armed intruders. "Let her go. This conflict is between us." The lead attacker laughed coldly. "Greco wants her alive. Says she'll make excellent leverage against you." Before Rocco could respond, the men moved swiftly, overwhelming him despite his skilled resistance. Bella screamed as rough hands seized her, dragging her forcefully away, while Rocco fought desperately against the remaining attackers. "Bella!" Rocco shouted, struggling fiercely, but the men had already forced her through a side door, disappearing quickly into a waiting vehicle outside. Bella was taken to an abandoned warehouse across the city, her wrists bound tightly as she was pushed roughly into a dimly lit room. Fear coursed violently through her entire body as she looked around at her captors, fully realizing now just how dangerous her situation had truly become. Moments later, Salvatore Greco entered, his cold eyes studying her with calculating interest. "So you're the woman who's caused me so much unexpected trouble," Greco said, circling her slowly. "Interesting." Rocco risked everything protecting someone he supposedly hired for one single evening. "Let me go," Bella said, struggling to keep her voice steady despite overwhelming fear. Greco smiled coldly. "Once Rocco arrives to rescue his precious companion, this will all be finished quickly. He won't resist coming for you. That's become his weakness now." Bella's mind raced desperately, understanding clearly now exactly what Greco's true plan involved. This wasn't simply about capturing her. It was a calculated trap designed specifically to lure Rocco into a vulnerable position where Greco's men could finally eliminate him completely. "You're using me to kill him," Bella said quietly, realization settling heavily within her voice. "Smart girl," Greco said with a cruel smile. "Now we simply wait." Meanwhile, back at his estate, Rocco regrouped quickly with his remaining men, fury and determination burning fiercely behind his controlled exterior. "We've confirmed Greco's warehouse location," Antonio reported, "but it's heavily guarded. A direct assault will be extremely dangerous." "I don't care about the risk," Rocco said firmly, his eyes blazing with fierce determination. "Bella is in danger because of me. I refuse to lose her. His men exchanged uncertain glances, clearly surprised by their usually composed boss's intense emotional urgency, but nodded firmly in agreement, quickly organizing a careful, strategic rescue plan. Back at the warehouse, Bella sat tensely, her wrists aching from tightly bound ropes. Greco paced nearby, occasionally glancing at his watch, clearly anticipating Rocco's imminent arrival. He genuinely cares about you, doesn't he? Greco asked suddenly, studying Bella's expression closely. Interesting, considering Rocco has always kept everyone at a careful distance. You must be quite remarkable to have broken through his defenses so completely. Bella remained silent, refusing to give Greco any satisfaction from witnessing her fear. Suddenly, the warehouse lights flickered, then went completely dark. Shouts and gunfire erupted outside rapidly, chaos breaking loose immediately. "He's here," Greco said, a dangerous smile spreading across his face. "Right on schedule." Bella's heart raced simultaneously, with fear and hope. She understood clearly that Rocco was risking everything to save her, yet she also feared this rescue attempt might be exactly the trap Greco had intended all along. Inside the warehouse, chaos erupted as Rocco's men clashed fiercely against Greco's forces. Rocco himself moved swiftly and precisely through the darkened building, eliminating threats methodically as he searched desperately for Bella. He finally located the room where she was being held, forcefully kicking the door open. Greco stood there, using Bella as a human shield, his gun pressed firmly against her side. "Let her go, Greco," Rocco said, his voice dangerously calm, despite the fury clearly simmering beneath his controlled exterior. "This ends now." Greco smiled coldly. "You've grown soft, Rocco. All this unnecessary risk, over one insignificant hired companion? Pathetic." "She has nothing to do with our conflict," Rocco said firmly, taking a slow, deliberate step closer. "Release her, and we'll settle this properly between ourselves." Greco laughed bitterly. "You honestly think I'll simply release my only advantage? No. This ends with you dead, and her as a permanent reminder of what happens to those foolish enough to cross me." Bella's mind raced desperately, realizing she couldn't simply wait passively to be rescued. Gathering every ounce of remaining courage, she suddenly stomped hard on Greco's foot, simultaneously driving her elbow sharply into his stomach with all her strength. Startled by the sudden attack, Greco's grip loosened just enough for Bella to break free, stumbling forward and away from him quickly. "Now!" she screamed urgently toward Rocco. Rocco moved instantly, lunging forward as Greco raised his weapon again in shock and fury. A single gunshot echoed loudly through the warehouse, followed immediately by tense, heavy silence. Greco collapsed heavily to the ground, clutching his shoulder in pain, disarmed and completely defeated. Rocco stood over him, breathing heavily, his weapon still raised, eyes blazing with barely restrained anger. "It's over, Greco," Rocco said coldly. "You've lost completely." Rocco's remaining men quickly secured Greco and his defeated forces. Rocco immediately turned away from his fallen rival, rushing straight to Bella, relief flooding his features as he carefully checked her for any injuries. "Are you hurt?" he asked urgently, his hands gently examining her for any sign of harm. "I'm okay," Bella said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm okay, Rocco." Overwhelmed with relief, Rocco pulled her tightly into his arms, holding her close as though terrified she might disappear if he loosened his grip even slightly. "I thought I might lose you completely," he whispered against her hair. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Bella held on to him just as fiercely, tears finally escaping down her cheeks now that the immediate danger had passed. "You came for me," she whispered softly. "You truly came." "I will always come for you," Rocco said firmly, pulling back slightly to look deeply into her eyes. "Bella, I know this was never the life you originally wanted, but I need you to know my feelings for you are completely, undeniably real." In the days following the warehouse confrontation, the city slowly settled back into an uneasy calm. Salvatore Greco, defeated and wounded, was handed over through a careful arrangement between the city's competing criminal factions, ensuring he would never again pose a threat to Rocco or anyone connected to him. His organization crumbled rapidly without his leadership, leaving Rocco's territory finally completely secure. Bella remained at Rocco's estate during her recovery, her body slowly healing from the physical toll of her kidnapping, though her mind continued replaying the terrifying events repeatedly. Rocco stayed close beside her throughout, patient and gentle, a striking contrast to the fierce, determined man who had rescued her from Greco's warehouse. One quiet afternoon, as Bella sat on the estate's balcony watching the city below, Rocco joined her, 2 cups of tea in hand. "How are you feeling today?" he asked softly, handing her a cup before sitting beside her. "Better," Bella admitted honestly, still processing everything, but genuinely better. Rocco studied her carefully, concern evident in his expression. "I know this entire experience has completely changed your life. I understand if you want to return to how things were before, your job, your normal life, far away from all this danger." Bella turned to look at him, considering his words seriously. "Is that even truly possible anymore, after everything that's happened between us?" "I could arrange it," Rocco said quietly, though something pained flickered behind his controlled expression. "A safer identity, relocation somewhere completely secure, far removed from this dangerous life entirely. You would never need to worry about danger like this again." Bella remained quiet for a long moment, memories flashing vividly through her mind. The fear, the danger, but also the unexpected kindness, the genuine emotional connection she had built with Rocco despite everything working strongly against it. "Is that truly what you want?" Bella finally asked. "For me to disappear completely from your life?" Rocco's jaw tightened slightly, his eyes revealing genuine vulnerability. "No, it's the very last thing I want, but I care about your safety and happiness more than my own personal desires." Bella reached out, gently placing her hand over his. "Rocco, I've thought about this constantly since the warehouse, about walking away, returning to my simple, predictable life. But every single time I consider it, I realize something important." "What's that?" Rocco asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't want a life without you in it," Bella said honestly, her voice steady despite the emotional weight behind her words. "Yes, this world is dangerous. Yes, it's complicated and frightening. But you've shown me kindness, strength, and genuine care I never expected to find, especially not from someone hired for $200. Rocco's eyes softened completely, years of guarded emotional walls finally breaking down entirely. He reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. "Bella, I need you to understand something clearly," he said seriously. "Being with me means accepting a life filled with constant risk, difficult decisions, and moments of genuine danger. I won't pretend otherwise." "I know," Bella said softly, "but I also know that after everything we face together, I trust you completely, not just with my physical safety, but with my heart." Rocco's expression grew emotional, vulnerability replacing his usual guarded composure entirely. "That night at the wedding, when you hired me simply to avoid awkward family questions, you had no idea who I truly was, yet you handled the chaos that followed with remarkable courage. That single evening changed my entire life completely." Bella smiled gently through tears beginning to form in her eyes. "I never expected a simple, impulsive decision like that to eventually lead me here to you." "Stay with me," Rocco said quietly, echoing words she never expected yet secretly hoped desperately to hear. "Not because circumstances forced you here, but because you genuinely want to build a real life together, despite everything." Bella leaned into his gentle touch, tears of happiness now falling freely down her cheeks. "I choose this completely, Rocco. I choose you." Weeks later, life slowly settled into an unexpected, comfortable new rhythm for Bella. She maintained careful, limited contact with her previous job, though now with additional safety precautions Rocco insisted upon implementing. Her family remained happily unaware of the true danger she had briefly faced, simply overjoyed that Bella had finally found genuine happiness with someone who clearly adored her completely. Every single evening, regardless of how demanding or dangerous Rocco's responsibilities became, he returned home faithfully to Bella, grateful beyond measure for the woman whose simple, impulsive decision to hire a fake boyfriend had unexpectedly saved his guarded heart completely. Sometimes, late at night, Bella found herself reflecting back on that fateful wedding evening, remembering her nervous decision to pay $200 for temporary companionship. She never could have imagined that such an ordinary, harmless choice would completely transform her entire future so dramatically. But as she looked over at Rocco beside her, safe, genuinely happy, and deeply in love, despite the complicated world surrounding their unlikely relationship, she knew without any doubt that she would make that exact same impulsive choice again, without hesitation. Because sometimes the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most genuine, lasting love, a truth Bella now carried gratefully with her every single day, thankful for the dangerous, unpredictable path that had led her directly toward real happiness.